Your next speaker is Tiana Wood, and she'll be doing Caffeine, the Drop Effect.
Caffeine. It may seem like the 21st century superhero, saving the day when you need it most, but there's evidence that this superhero is actually two-faced and maybe ripping us off more than we realize. As students, we always want whatever help we can get with our studies, with our grades, to get on with our life, to get out of school and get on with our career. And the evidence that we uncovered today is going to show us how caffeine can either be our friend or not. My mom's story with caffeine kind of led me into the study of caffeine, if you will, and my experience later on in life pushed me further into the study of caffeine, helping me to make an educated decision for myself. And basically, at the end of the day, caffeine, those who intake caffeine in any of their various forms are at risk for depression, anxiety, and also blood loss to the brain. And so today I'm going to show you where you'll find caffeine, which most of you are probably pretty familiar with, some of the effects of caffeine, and also give you a perspective of how much caffeine you might be consuming a day. First of all, let's take a look at where you might find caffeine. How many of you drink a cup of coffee in the morning just so you can talk straight? Okay, yep. You probably know that coffee is one of the most highly consumed beverages for its caffeine intake. People like the boost, and why don't you choose a smoothie or a cup of orange juice over the coffee? What do those two things not have that you're looking for in your coffee? Anybody? Caffeine. Yeah, besides the fact that it tastes good and it smells good. Some people say it may even help prevent Alzheimer's and stress. But what's another drink that you might find caffeine in? Soda.
Tea.
Tea, energy drinks. What about food?
Chocolate.
Yep, chocolate. For some of you, the food and the drink connection with caffeine is no big surprise, but you may not know some of the true effects that caffeine has on a person, except the fact that it kicks your butt into gear every morning. The Journal of School Health, there's a study that was done by Dr. Loubet and Dr. Vell in 2009 with 5th and 10th graders, trying to discover if there was a true connection between caffeine and depression and anxiety. And so a cross-sectional study was done, and they found that in the findings, it showed that depression was positively related to caffeine use for both cohorts, for those students who had an average dosage of 13 to 15 milligrams of caffeine per drink. So it was positively connected that caffeine and depression, they had a connection, but the anxiety, they weren't quite sure, so they didn't list that. But they said that caffeine is the only illicit psychoactive drug available to minors. Even more recently this year, ABC News did an experiment with one of their news reporters, Lisa Stark, and they did 2 MRIs, one before she had a cup of coffee, before she had any caffeine in her system, and then one after. The results after she had 1 cup of Starbucks coffee, which they didn't say the ounces or the milligrams of caffeine in it, but they found that after 1 cup, she had a 40% drop of blood flow to her brain. That's a lot. I mean, that's almost half of your blood flow cut off to your brain, just 1 cup of Starbucks coffee. And the 2 MRIs were administered by Dr. Paul Laurenti, and they said that, well, I'll back up. The average dosage for a moderate amount for an adult is 200 to 300 milligrams. The ABC listed that 320 milligrams is your limit. After that limit, you're in for some bad effects. Some other people say that that limit's closer to 500, but either way, that's between 320 and 500, you've got about your limit of caffeine before you're headed in the wrong direction. Later on in the video, they said 1 cup a day will change the physiology of your brain, which most of you answered that you knew that it could change the physiology of your brain. A little caffeine can do a lot. And with all this being said, does anyone have any idea how many milligrams of caffeine you might be consuming any given day? Just a number? No idea. 1,000? Okay, we'll go with that. I did my homework on the caffeine, the milligrams of caffeine in some of our favorite drinks and foods that we eat every day. For an amp, 16-ounce amp, you've got 142 milligrams of caffeine, 80 milligrams for Red Bull. Monster is 160 milligrams. Going over to Starbucks, if you grab a grande in any of these drinks, Starbucks bold pick of the day is 330 milligrams. It's over the limit. Starbucks iced coffee, 165 milligrams. Favorite right now, pumpkin spice latte, 150 milligrams. A Hershey's milk chocolate bar is 12 milligrams, and if you up it to dark, it's 20 milligrams. Now, how many of you ever thought that caffeine was in coffee-flavored ice cream? Did you ever think there might be some caffeine in it? I didn't. I thought it was just a flavor. And you've got 64 milligrams of caffeine as an average between the brands of Starbucks, Haagen-Dazs, and Ben & Jerry's. And besides, who eats 8 ounces of ice cream unless you're on a diet? I mean, you eat half the container, so. Practically speaking, let's just be moderate here. Some of you said you were drinking more than 6 cups of coffee a day. We'll just go with 2. We'll just say you have 2 iced coffees, just randomly 2 iced coffees. Let's say you add a Monster in there because midterms are coming up, and throw in a chocolate bar. You've got 502 milligrams of caffeine. That's already way over the limit. The limit was back at 320 milligrams. And so the bottom line is that caffeine may seem like a total superhero, but I hope that you're able to catch a glimpse of the other side, because caffeine is a drug, and it does have some well-known enjoyable features, and sometimes we can get kind of caught up in those nice effects, but it's good to know the risks and the facts that it can harm you and it can affect you in some bad ways. People like my mom, who dealt with depression for a long time, was paying bucket loads for antidepressants, like $2 a pill. That was way back then. And she was drinking like several 64-ounce things of Diet Coke a day. And someone said to her one day, you know, the caffeine might be what's going on with your depression. And she didn't drink the Diet Coke for the caffeine, she had it for the bubbles. So she switched to something like Sprite, and that was it. Her depression was over and she's never looked back. And so I hope that today you were able to kind of learn a little bit more about where you find caffeine, how much you might be consuming, and the effects that it will have on you. And just remember that caffeine, it does have a drop effect.